Hey guys, here's Louie. So, on this video of getting the bird that came back from the dead done, I have been wet sanding the other body panels here. Okay, so it's the same process that I use on the body over here, okay, of the car. I'm using on the doors and also on the fenders. If you guys could see, she has guy coat on the fenders, on the doors. I already did the door. This one is about 95% done. That one is basically done, okay? And I want to share something with you guys. So when I wet sand on the body line, any body lines, and on the edge of a fender, a door jamb, the door here, the wheel well where the body line is at, anywhere there's a body line or edge, I do not pass any sandpaper when I'm gonna do the wet sanding. Okay, I use a red Scotch Brite, which they are graded to be about 320 sandpaper. Okay, so around that kind of grit, 320. And the reason is because the Scotch Brite is a little bit more friendlier. What I mean is that if you stay long enough, or you don't happen to have that much primer on the edge or on that body line, and you're just sanding away, you are going to cut through. What does it mean to cut through? Well, to cut through means that you're going to go through your primer and you're going to hit metal. And you cannot apply paint over bare metal. I explained that before in previous video. You will need to have either an etching primer on it or a primer that is DTM, direct to metal. Okay, so you could apply a top coat on it, which will be your paint. So I use 600 grit here. All right, and let me explain my process here, how I do step by step. So if you guys remember, the whole car and all the panels was worked on. Okay, then I primed with the red primer that I use, the red lacquer primer. Then I also spray guy coat. This is the guy coat. I explained this before. This is the guy coat I like to use. Okay, it happens to work out excellent. I got it in Amazon, about $12, shipped to my door. And when I had it in the red primer, I also block sand it and I also wet sand. The reason I do that because I feel that's how you get your panels as straight as possible. I mean, looking really sharp. And once I finish wet sanding for the first time, that's when I sprayed this primer, which is the high build primer, and I also wet sanding this for my final sanding, and then comes the paint. That's exactly the steps I took on the body of the car here, and I love the way it came out. It just looks nice and slick, nice and smooth. She came out beautiful, and I'm just praying to God that I get the same results with these panels. Okay, and this I mean, so many videos of wet sanding out there. I don't know if you guys will find it interesting or what, but it is an important step. It's an important skill to learn. Okay, and you basically, I like to use these blocks. These are Dura blocks. This is the stiff one. There's no bend, but you guys will have to buy another block, and it's right here. It even says it, wet sanding block. All right. Made in the US of A. You don't see that too much anymore. And this is the real flexible one. And the reason you want the flexible one also is for when you go to these contour parts of the panel. All right. The other one is too stiff, so she won't really get that groove. All right. But if you see here on the fender, you see there's a gap here because she's not laying down on the fender. But this one is so flexible that once you put that pressure down, if you guys can see that, then she gets that contour and she'll be able to sand nice and easy for you. You use a bucket with water and about 3 dabs of dish soap. If you care to know, I like to use Dawn. I use Dawn for everything. Clean parts from cars, clean the car, clean the panels, wet sand. I use Dawn for everything. I think is the best, but that's my opinion. All right. And then what you guys will do is, I also shared before the wet sandpaper I like to use is from Duragold. All right. Here it is. That's the information you will need. And there's 25 sheets in here, 9 by 5.5 inches diameter size. Okay. And the grit is right there, 600 grit. So what you'll do is you'll take one out the box here, one sheet. And I like to fold them for you can have 3 sides. All right. Right now I'm holding the phone with the other hand, so I'm not gonna be 100% perfect, but it gets me in the ballpark. All right. So you have a tri-bend here, tri-fold, I should say. Here you go. So you're able to use the paper on 3 sides, 1, 2, and 3. All right. And just throw it in the bucket. Let it get nice and wet. All right. You could leave it there for about whatever. I leave it like about 15 minutes. Okay. Just to let you guys know, I'll leave it about 15 minutes. I guess you guys could do the same, even longer. Don't matter. I actually have paper sitting in the bucket for overnight. I come back the next day and it's still sanding. All right. So you let that soak in there and then you start getting ready to wet sand. Now, a lot of people do not like to wet sand because it makes a mess on the floor. But believe me, once you carry your hose, your garden hose, into the garage and you spray on this, it just washes away. I personally, when I'm going to paint, I told you guys in the last video that I hose down the whole garage. I clean the day before painting. I hose down the whole garage. I first use the air hose and I blow all the dust that I possibly could blow outside the garage. Then I hose down the whole entire floor of the garage. Okay, and I sweep out the water. Then I have my mop bucket over there and my mop is outside. I will mop the whole floor of the garage. I'll wipe down the compressor. Okay, anything else that I could probably cover my tool with some plastic. All right, the tools on the wall with some plastic if I go to that point. All right, and that's what I do to paint. Okay, if you take those precautions, you will have a nice looking home garage paint job. I mean, guys, look at how this car looks. Give me a break. All right, it was built right here in the same area from day one of the garage. I always like to build my cars on that side of the garage, and I think she looks fantastic. Okay, now I will show you guys how to wet sand. All right, guys, so let's start wet sanding. So Here I'm going to start with the block that is not that flexible. All right, the hard block. And I'm wrapping my wet sandpaper on it. I'm gonna dip it in the bucket. Now you guys could use a spray bottle. Also add a little salt to it, maybe 2 drops, and wet your panel. Okay, here's the block. And what I have learned from wet sanding is, if you're going to do it with no block, which I really don't like it, I always use a block. Some areas you're gonna find that you cannot use a block, you will have to use your hands. But never go, if you're gonna use the sandpaper alone with no block, never use it this way with your fingers, because you are going to leave waves. If you take a look on the back of your hands, it's not a smooth, flush surface. Your fingers naturally was made like a wave, you know, circle, so it's rounded. That's why I like to use a block, because there's no waves, nothing funny going on there, just nice, straight, and smooth. And this is the way I like to wet sand, the motion I go. So I go this way, okay, and I also go that way. And what it is just an X. We just marking an X on it. Okay, and if you see, she's cutting right through that guide coat already. Okay, could go like this using a block, and this is the way you want to go. Now when you start feeling that she's getting a little tight, all right, and the block don't want to be like gliding on your panel, you have to wet it again. All right, and that's how you want to work it. An X pattern. You could go like this. Now where there's a body line, please respect it. Do not go on it. Don't go over it, because you're gonna mess it up. You're gonna cut through. I already explained what cut through means. All right, believe it or not, here's another good tip. You see your fingers? I like to sand like this, that if my fingertip is feeling that body line, I don't let the block go up. I keep it right there, and I just hold her down while I'm touching that body line. I'll get close, but I ain't touching the body line. I can guarantee you that. Okay, keep her nice and wet, and she will just glide. And keep sanding and keep cutting through. There you go. Like I said, a lot of people don't like to wet sand, but I love it. Let's face it. Look at all the steps you have to take to get your car done. You have to cut the metal, shape the metal, weld the metal, grind the metal, fill the metal, sand the filler on the metal, prime the metal, okay? Block sand that primer to shoot it again with primer. Block sand that primer again, shoot it again with primer, till you finally get to about this step. All that hard work. So to me, this is like a mini vacation while I'm working on the car, because it's the most simple, the most relaxing. I'm here nice and calm in the garage, taking it easy, sanding on the fender, looking at the excellent work that I have done, feeling proud of yourself for attacking your project all by yourself and doing a great job at it. I mean, come on, why not? And believe me, the reward comes at the end when you see your car nice, straight, and painted. All right, so another method I want to show you is going in circles. You could go this way, you could go that way, it doesn't matter. Okay, Is all the way you feel more comfortable. Any way you feel more comfortable. Okay. Now, to get, it gets like a little chalky and like mud. You could kind of say that it gets very chalky and the water starts turning thicker because you're cutting through the primer. That's when I use the second block as a squeegee. Okay, just shake it, wet it again. Go. It becomes your squeegee now. All right. Now, me lightly sanding this and not putting no crazy force, okay, on the panel. Not putting no weight into it. I'm just doing it nice and light. And if you see, look at how nice that area came out. All right, there ain't no low there. I have very little paint left there, but I'm pretty sure she's gonna come off with a little bit more sanding. Okay, like I said, just go gentle. This is not supposed to be like a gorilla. You pressing down so hard. No. And look, there you go. She came off. See, just keep on. Now, if you guys don't want to use the spray bottle, I use both. You could use a clean rag, of course. Make sure it's nice and clean, lint free. So I like to use a microfiber. And what I do is I squeeze the rag and sand. Okay. And this been used, I mean, for many, many decades. This is really an old technique. But guess what? It works. Wet it again. Always try to keep your panel nice and wet, but the block with the sandpaper be flowing. All right. I'm not gonna do the whole entire panel because I don't want to make you guys go crazy watching this. But I really do and feel that everything I share on my channel is vital. It's a very important step that you guys need to learn for those of you that never done it or don't understand it. Here it is. Wet sanding your panel. After you're done repairing, putting all your hard work into it, this is how it's supposed to come out. Okay? You just keep going. And she's cutting right through the Geico. All right? Now, if I had any problems that I had a low spot, let's say there was a ding that I didn't see. There was a ding, boom, and I didn't see it. It just popped up because the Geico helps you highlight everything that is not right. Especially if it's a ding, you will have to go back to repair it. Okay, if it's to knock it back out and fill it, or a high spot, you knock it down and fill it and sand. You have to, because let me tell you something. The Geico wet sanding and the water, try to use the water like a clear coat. It highlights everything. So while you're doing this, you really want to be focused at that panel and looking at that panel to see if anything gets highlighted and come out. This is the time. Because I'm going to tell you something. When you shoot nice shiny paint on your car, it will bring it out. Don't think the paint is going to cover it, because it's not going to cover it. It's not going to fill it. That's just the way it works. So this is critical. This is your point in time now to fix anything wrong with your panel. All right? You want to just keep going back. It's getting dry on me. See, I just squeeze it and I keep going. And I keep on going. Nice and easy. Okay? Now, let me get this straight with you guys. When I am done wet sanding this fender here and it's all dried, okay, I pass on the body line, like I said earlier, a red Scotch-Brite, body line, edge. Once it's dry, do not pass the Scotch-Brite if the panel is still wet, please. And this is how Louis wet sands the panel before paint. I hope you guys enjoy the video. It's a short video, but it's a really knowledgeable video. Something you guys could learn, something simple, and it's an extra skills on your belt. Take care now. God bless. Bye-bye.